Story time of how I found out that my mom was putting our dad's ashes in our food. Yep, our mom would put our dead dad's ashes in our dinner. So basically, after my dad died, my mom showed zero emotion. It's like she really didn't care at all. Like she kind of wanted it to happen. His death was like an unsolved case, and nobody knows how he actually died. And now that I get to think about it, it might have been my mom, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. And if it was her and she sees this video, I don't want to end up like him. Anyways, back to the story. So about a month after he died, she would always post a picture of me and my brother's dinner with the caption, "You'll always be with them." Literally every single night. And honestly, nobody really caught on. All the comments were like, we're praying, this and that. Until one day I was just sitting on the couch and I look over and my mom was pouring something into the mashed potatoes. So I go a little closer and I see her pouring the ashes of my dad into our mashed potatoes. Listen, this story only gets 10 times worse, so like for a part 2.
Story time. My parents found out that I was dating a white boy. So a little background information. My parents are super strict, especially my dad. And on top of that, my dad thought that races should not mix. One of his sayings was, "You don't see a blue jay fucking a pigeon." AKA, white people and black people should not be together. Sounds fucking stupid. Yeah, I know. Anyways, like I was saying, it was my freshman year of high school and I had been dating this boy for 2 months. And of course he was white. And we had to keep it super low-key because if any of my friends found out about it, they would have fucking told my dad. Now when I look back at it, those weren't good friends at all. Anyways, every Friday, my boyfriend and I would go to the movies. And we would go to this theater that was 45 minutes away because nobody that I knew would be there. The only person that knew that I was dating a white boy was my sister. Well, the one day after the movies, I couldn't get a ride home, so I had to get a ride home with him and his family. And as soon as I pulled up, my parents were waiting outside, like for part 2.
This is why you should always keep pictures of your parents. A little girl named Olivia who lived a very quiet life decided to check her homework assignments that were posted online. The teacher posted that they needed to write down their favorite memory with their family as well as bring a photograph. Olivia then writes about how her and her mom play dolls every night in the basement before bed and that she has a lot of fun doing so. She finishes her paragraph and then looks in her dad's drawer for a photograph of mom. She only found pictures of her mom from high school but decided to use it anyway. Olivia goes to bed and wakes up the next morning. Once she arrives at school, the teacher then says, "Let's start presenting our project." Then the teacher called Olivia's name to present. Olivia then begins to read about how her and her mom play dolls every night and then pulls out the photograph. As soon as Olivia pulled out the photograph, her teacher's face goes numb. She then asks Olivia if she can take a closer look at the photograph. She then recognized her mom as one of her previous students. Then the teacher asks, "Where did you get this photo?" Olivia says, "My dad keeps them in his drawer." The teacher, shocked, sits down Olivia and pulls out an old newspaper. The newspaper headline, "Local high school teen murdered, boyfriend gone missing." The teacher then looks at Olivia and says, "Your mom has been dead for 14 years.
You should never dye your hair, and this is why. Tabitha was a 17-year-old high school student who dyed her hair all the time. One night, her and her best friend had a slumber party together and decided to dye their hair blue. 20 minutes after putting the dye in her hair, Tabitha got up to go to the washroom, where she began pulling her hair and screaming in agony before collapsing to the floor. She was rushed to the hospital but died that night from an allergic reaction to the hair dye.
So there's this lighthouse that you can see from my house, and my mom used to tell me a story about a woman who used to live there. No one lives in it now, but there used to be this young woman in her 20s who lived there like 30 years ago. Apparently she came from a really broken home. Her mom and sister died in a horrible car crash, and her dad was an abusive drug addict. So the harbor master let her live in the lighthouse and paid her a small salary for taking care of it. So she had been living there for a couple months, and that's when she noticed weird things starting to happen. Some of her belongings would occasionally go missing. Like one time she couldn't find her flashlight and she looked for it everywhere. And finally she found it under her bed, which was weird because she knew she had never put it there. But then weirder stuff started to happen.
This girl was trapped in a coffin for 7 years. Colleen Stan was a 21-year-old living in Oregon. In 1977, she was hitchhiking to a friend's house for a birthday party in California. Colleen saw a car coming with a man and his wife, as well as a baby in the passenger seat, and decided this would be a good ride. The couple introduced themselves as Cameron and Janice and agreed to give her a ride. But a few minutes into the drive, they pulled off the highway into an isolated area. This is when Cameron pulled out a knife and held it to Colleen's throat, explaining to her that him and his wife have decided to kidnap someone to help them with chores. They took Colleen back to their house and locked her in a coffin under their waterbed. The next morning, Cameron forced Colleen to sign a contract to officially become his slave. Colleen was kept in the box for 23 hours a day and was only let out to be fed or tortured. But one day, a hiker passing near the house heard Colleen yelling and so pulled out his phone to call the cops. Part 2 coming soon.
So my mom is gay and she has been as long as I've remembered. Her girlfriend had 2 daughters, one was adorable but the other was a literal demon. She was a raggedy fatty patty no sauce on her daddy chicken wing Stranger Things attention whore bitch. I fucking hated her, she was such a whack ass hoe. One day she decided to make a ramen with her fat ass self. She wanted attention because we had been ignoring her because she was wing ignorant all day. So this bitch really put in the ramen without the water. The whole fucking apartment almost went down and we had to get a new microwave. That bitch didn't even get in trouble but I smacked the fuck out of her because I couldn't have fucking ramen for a month. Did I give a shit? No.
This is a story of when my neighbor made me watch lesbian porn from when I was 4 years old up until I was 10 years old. So she was a year older than me, and since we were around the same age, our parents had us hang out with each other. I remember that I was 4 years old because she was in kindergarten and I wasn't yet. I remember one day I was waiting for her to get off the bus, and when she got off the bus, she took me into her computer room. She locked the door and told me that I can't tell anybody what she's about to show me. So it started off with just looking up lesbians kissing on YouTube. And obviously I had no idea what this was because my family's very conservative and I never learned about that. So this would go on probably every single time that we hung out, which was probably every day. And she even forced me to watch it in my own house, but there was no lock on my door, so we would put my toy boxes in front of the door so nobody would come in. Honestly, when I think about my childhood, that's the only thing that I really think about. And then it started getting physical. The earliest memory of it being physical was in her backyard on her trampoline. She had me go in a corner where nobody would see us.